truly this training is about, we're really good at making the income in the business, millions, right? How do we get that into assets? How do we get the assets to then pay for our expenses? That's the whole thing. Get enough assets coming in to where you don't have to trade time for money, right? The assets the money starts making baby monies, right? But I think you first have to get rich and then you get wealthy. And so it's really that balance is really tough in our business because we always want that income coming in. We always want to hit bigger goals. We always want bonuses. We always want the cash. But at some point, we have to think long-term on wealth building and creating equity in some of these great deals that we find. We're the absolute best at finding the best discounted properties. So that's where Aaron comes in with his expertise of working with thousands of investors throughout his career and really putting together a really cool plan on how to be able to grow that. So without further ado, Aaron Chapman.
Right on.
Take it over.
Thanks, brother.
You got
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
Give it
I know.
up.
Thank you. So I brought back up because there's going to be some.
Yeah.
We're going to get deep in the weeds, I'm sure, when we start talking about the application of some of these things. And so I want to make sure that I've got people here in the room that can get deep in the weeds with you. Because I'm forgive the statements here, but I got wizards behind the curtain. I'm the smoke, mirrors, and bullshit. I just come out and give you all the high level data, right? Exactly. So high level data. So I've got with me Ellen Schmidt, who's been with me for 14 years. 14 years. We've worked together to build this in an industry that didn't like this. And then we've got Sandra, who's worked with us for the last, it's got to be 10 years in the underwriting space. Have you guys ever heard the term underwriter?
Yep.
Usually they're said the last week of the deal, you got to close in 3-4 days, but yet this underwriter, who's kind of a jackass, wants all this extra paperwork, right? They want this, they want that, and it's preventing you from closing. It's not that the underwriter who really sucks, it's that the person who started the transaction sucks. They don't know how to put together a transaction properly. So we built a team like going to Chipotle to get a burrito. You guys have all been there, right? You don't just order a burrito. You walk up and you ask the tortilla person for the tortilla or the bowl. Mm-hmm. Then you go to the salsa person. Then you got the meat person. You got the rice. And you got that really stingy one with the guac. Mm-hmm. Then you get to pay for it. I got the exact same construction process. It's frustrating for some people because they don't have one point of contact in my organization. You have a different person at different stages to make sure this is as efficient as possible. So we're trying to make sure we build it in a way that doesn't blow up on you at the end. So that's how we get started. So I've been mainly focused on the real estate investor. I got in business in 1997, and with the real estate investor being underrepresented. Now they're starting to be more represented in the industry because myself and 2 other people paved the way for most loan originators to actually understand it. So we fought the industry for years, finally got Fannie and Freddie to play along. How do we get them to play along? They came in and audited us. When you go through an audit, they ask a lot of questions, and it gets really ugly. But then you get to ask questions back, and you start to find out what they like and what they don't like. And then you get to understand why they don't like it, but you can show them why they should like it, and now they love it. Now, the problem that I've done is I've created a lot of competition for myself. So situations like we've got here, great thing to be able to do. So when it comes to what you guys do, build the wealth, or at least get them rich, start creating the capital, then it starts to just recycle, and you're building cash. But there's a problem with holding cash. Anybody got an idea what is a problem with holding cash? Inflation. What is inflation doing?
Inflation's lowering the value of your dollar just sitting there.
What causes inflation?
The government spending more money than what we have in gold.
They're creating too much money.
Printing it.
Yeah, printing too much money versus
So,
gold, right?
to get into the inflation piece of it, I'm holding right here. I'll even pass it around. Better make it back because I'm trusting everybody. This is an 1888 gold piece. It was minted for $20. So in 1888, that was $20. You could walk into a department store and get a hat, a suit, a tie, a shirt, a pair of socks, a pair of shoes, and a belt, and all these things for that gold piece. Now, I can't buy the socks I'm wearing for $20. Why? Why will this not $20 not even buy my socks?
You wear really nice socks.
I do wear really nice socks.
That's-
They're great
those are
socks.
some nice socks.
There's no two ways about that.
Jeez, those are some
They're the
serious
QU
socks.
hybrid socks. They're amazing. Absolutely amazing socks. Anything
okay.
QU is really high end. But the problem of it is there's way too much of this. They put way too much of this in circulation than they did with that. So what's interesting about this another example. 1994, I walked into my very first Taco Bell. I got 2 crunchy tacos, 2 bean burritos, and a drink for $1.99. What does it cost now?
$20.
It's $15.
Yeah.
So you'll get a $5 back, actually $5.01 if I handed them this. The exact same things. Have burritos become that much more expensive to construct? No, it's because this has become worth that much less. It's not that that gold piece or that ounce of gold is worth more. It's not that the clothes are more expensive. It's because this has become that much less valuable because there's so dang much of it. So when you're holding cash, you're doing these deals, you're stacking up the cash, what's it doing to you to have it sit in your bank account?
Nothing. It's going down.
You're losing value.
Yeah.
You know how much you're losing value by on an average in the United States right now? 8% per year is the average. If you look at the real rate of inflation, depending upon how you spend your money, it could be as high as 12%. If you're really, really tight on how you spend your money and you only spend it on durable goods, that's what the Fed's measuring for the 2% or whatever that might be. Things that you only replace every so often, or you substitute things. You guys ever heard of the substitution method? So let's just say your family always ate, making sure it's the same one. Some bitch is carrying around a brass plug just for this occasion. So let's just say your family was living very, very well. You're eating filet every single night. But then because of inflation, you can't really afford filet, so now you're going to go to, let's say, the strip. And then you're going from the strip, you're going to sirloin. From sirloin, you're going to go to chicken. Then you go to chicken to ground beef. It's still the same weight. So the Federal Reserve said, well, they're still getting a full belly on 10 ounces of meat. And they graduated all the way down from filet to ground beef. That substitution method is how they maintain the 2% on the inflation. But in reality, we're talking 8 to 12, and it's been that way since the 80s. So your dollar's losing 8% of its value or buying power every year it sits in your bank account. Does that alarm you? So the question is, what should you be doing with it? We already know how you're making it, right? We already know how everybody's growing it. We already know how to maintain your expenses. We want to save it, but then what do we do with it? So my thing that I always will at least educate people on is real estate is going to be 2 different things. Well, do we even talk about investment banking in this particular conversation?
We'll get there. Let's talk about how we go from finding deals to buying them ourselves. What's required there?
Okay.
And then how do we pool our money to be able to buy it as a company?
Perfect. So what you guys are already finding deals,
Right.
You're already finding, you're already getting them, you're flipping them, you're making the capital on it. But then there's going to be some you're like, have you ever looked back and remember a couple that you guys had moved on? You're like, some bitch, we should have hung on to those. Especially if we picked up stuff in 2012. I had so many of my clients buying here in 2012. They bought a lot, and I saw some amazing deals come across my desk. I couldn't jump in on because they're going so stinking fast. I wished I grabbed a few of them because they'd be worth probably 10 times more today. So you want to get into a pattern of buy and hold. I had a client of mine in, does anybody know where Gary, Indiana is?
Yeah.
Okay, Gary, Indiana, he would buy 4 houses, sell 3, keep 1. And that one that he kept, he had cherry picked those ones, and he literally got it for free. He built up a portfolio of 200 houses, and he literally just sold it this last year, all 200. So how do we get that plan in place for you guys in some form? So now what we got to decide is what is the ones you want to keep? Anybody, you guys have any sort of idea what you want to keep?
Good school districts,
Okay.
right? We love good school districts. Typically, probably newer than 1990. Just wear and tear wise, and it just has to. It depends on the price point, right? Arizona's not really a cash flow market; it's more of an appreciation market.
It's an appreciation and a depreciation market.
Right.
Right. So you want to be able to depreciate it. You want to be able to get the appreciation of it. And the biggest thing that people don't think about is the amortization of the loan. So we're going to do a little bit of math together to show exactly what you want. So what you really would like to be able to find is properties you can keep reasonably rented the entire time you own it.
Yep.
It's going to appreciate. You can raise rents on it. So we're going to do some math together. So I'm going to do simple math. I don't want to go with, and everybody's going to get your calculators out, get your phones out, because I want you to see it in your mind why we're doing it this way. So we're talking about, and this is not going to be an Arizona house. It's going to be more expensive. I'm going to use a number. It's going to be easy for me to do off the top of my head. We're talking about a $200,000 acquisition. We're going to say you're going to have an 80% loan to value on it. We're going to say that you're going to get $1,800 a month rent off that property.
Can I write this?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do
Yeah,
this.
your writing's a
Do
lot
the-
better than mine. So we'll start that over 200,000,
Yep.
80% loan to value. Let's see here, $1,800 a month rent. And there's only $100 a month cash flow coming in on this after principal, interest, taxes, insurance. Now this is off of one, not a group of them, because we're going to show a group of them. This is going to be what I would say would be a target. Does this seem like the type of deal that gets you excited?
No.
Not a single person in here got excited. I didn't see anybody jump up and down that you want to do this deal. Hopefully when we're done with this, $100 a month cash flow,
Okay.
hopefully when we're done with this quick equation, you'll start seeing the excitement behind it. So, if you did pick the right property that stayed reasonably rented the entire time you own it, you're able to raise rents and all these things, who pays off the $160,000 loan? Tenants. The tenants. Okay, so, and in this price, if you got $200,000 purchase price, you got $160,000 loan, how much did you have to put down?
40,000.
40,000. You got 40,000 invested in this thing, and let's say with the cost structure on it, you're going to have lender fees, appraisal, title, insurance, taxes, all that stuff. It's another 10 grand. So we're talking about 50,000 invested. So 50,000 invested, you're getting $100 a month cash flow. I'm not making you any more excited, am I?
Nope.
No, it's actually got worse the longer I talk. So invested 50 grand, but your tenant is paying off 160. So let's take 160,000. This is where you get your calculators out, and divide it by 30, because we want to focus on a 30-year loan. I know when you're talking about commercial deals, it's harder to find these, but I love the 30-year fixed. So 160,000 divided by 30, what do you got? $5,333.34, right? Okay, what percentage of your 50,000 is that? 10.6, right? So what that means is your tenant's paying off a $160,000 loan for you over 30 years. Now there's an amortization table, I get that, but averaging over 30 years, they're giving you $5,333 a year just by paying off the mortgage. That is 10.6% on your 50,000 invested. You're literally growing your money at 10.6. What do we say inflation was doing to your money sitting in the bank account? Eating it by at least 8%. So you're making 2% of your money just there already. So 10.6 growth. Now, we live in an inflationary environment. Properties go up in value. The reason you come and buy in Arizona is not for cash flow. It's for what? Appreciation. What's the appreciation in Arizona?
I mean, if you average it, they say 6, but
Okay.
it's probably 10.
6 to 10, yeah. It depends upon where you buy, too. Some parts of Arizona won't do that. Others will. So you guys will probably be a little bit more discerning. So let's say it's closer to 10. Let's knock that shit way down. Let's say it's 2.5. Does that get you excited? But is it very reasonable to expect 2.5% anywhere you go in Arizona? No matter what you do, you're going to get 2.5. So what's 2.5% of 200,000?
$5,000.
$5,000. That means your $200,000 house is going to appreciate by $5,000 every single year that you own it on the minimum, because it's going to compound. What's 5,000? What percent of your $50,000 investment?
10%.
Add that to your other 10.6, and what do you have? 20.6% is what your growth is so far, just by buying in Arizona with a minimum 2.5% appreciation and having it stay reasonably rented the entire time you own it. You don't have to gouge the renter to be able to get that other 10.6%. So you're at 20.6% already, and we haven't even got to the cash flow piece. Is it starting to get a little bit more exciting than what I started with? So now let's get into the cash flow piece. It's $100 a month. We get to raise rents. How much are rents going up by year over year in Arizona?
3%.
3%. So let's just use that 3, because that's a pretty average number. What's 3% of 1,800? Did that get you excited? $54 a month increase in your rents? No, that's not a big. It's like that was nothing. It's almost hardly. Why would I hold the house? But did your tenant get excited about $54? How many people have seen apartments go up by $200 a month? My kids had that. I had a daughter living in Idaho that had her rent go up mid-lease by $200 a month. Mid-lease. She signed a 1-year lease, and by month 9, they raised it. I'm like, what the hell? Like, send me your lease. And I looked at it, it's like, you signed in here that they can do that shit to you. So $54. So your tenant's not excited. They're going to stay in that. But what'd your cash flow go up by? What percentage? What is $54 percentage of 100?
50%, 54%.
54%. That's the easiest math we're going to have in this whole thing. So 54%. It's also the hardest math for most people. Like, oh, what is that? 54% increase in your cash flow. You will constantly have a double-digit compound increase in your cash flow by a single-digit 3% increase in the rent. Starting to get a little more sexy, right? Okay, so here's where it gets extremely sexy. We talked about the value of the US dollar and what it's doing, right? You guys held the gold piece, you checked that out. When you pay on a 30-year fixed loan, you're gonna take your tenant's money, you're gonna pay on that mortgage, and you will pay over 30 years $402,000. Do you like that fact? You borrowed 160, but 402 went to the bank. What does that tempt you to do?
Refinance. Pay it off.
Pay it off. Pay it off early. It's like, man, there's that one really smart sumbitch on the news. What was his name? Dave Ramsey said I should pay more to my thing. So I'll take my cash flow plus another $200 or $300. I'll pay it off early. It's not paying $402,000. Susie Orman says that. My grandpa says that. My uncle says that. He was drunk when he said it, but he still said it. Right? So we do that, right? We pay all this extra, but what we don't realize is what we're paying is with when the dollar is worth more. The longer you take to pay, the less you actually pay. You guys ever heard that the 30-year fix is a hedge against inflation? Has anybody ever given you a number on how that works? I have a calculator. You'll have to go down, download it if you guys have iPhones. Sorry, Droid guys, my Droid system screwed up. Go to the Apple Store and download the QJO investment tool. It stands for the Quit Jerking Off investment tool, because that's what you're doing when you're worrying about the interest rates. It's only for investment. You can still do your other apps. So QJO investment tool. So when you go in there, launch it, you'll scroll down to the third calculator called the mortgage amortization calculator. When you launch that, type in these numbers. You got $200,000, actually a 20% down, a $200,000 purchase price, and let's just say 7.5% interest rate, because that's about where we're at right now with most of our stuff. It's going to swing a little bit, might get a little bit higher, might get a little bit lower, but let's just use that as an average. Everybody got that turned in? So you hit, you're going to go ahead and calculate it. You can scroll down and see what your payment is. 7.5.
7.5.
So 20% at the top one, 200,000 on the next one, 7.5 on the next one, no extra. Even though you're tempted to type in that fourth field, don't. Calculate it, then go to your upper right-hand corner. You're going to see what looks like a calendar icon. You'll click on that. You'll scroll hard right to 2,054. That's adjusting the payments for 30 years. And then launch that and scroll down. $402,000, correct? 402. What is the adjusted inflation-adjusted payments today at the very bottom? 152,000. How much did we borrow? But you gave the bank back how much? So what you're doing is every time you give them a payment, it's actually worth a little bit less from the day you gave them. They gave you the money to buy the house. So as you're trickling it back to them, you're giving them less money. So as a result of that, you're paying back less than what you borrowed. Have you ever noticed how you get a 30-year fix from a bank, but they hammer the hell out of you to refinance? You know what the average person refinances their house in every year? I mean, excuse me, in their ownership of a house, how often they refinance? Every 4 to 5 years. Whoever said 5 is pretty darn accurate. What does the amortization table look like on the first 5 years of your 30-year
All
fixed mortgage?
interest.
So, if they got you doing the refinancing all the time because it got lower and it got lower and got lower, where do you end up being? Strictly in an interest-paying position, never paying down the balance. So I had a client of mine, case in point, $120,000 loan, paid on it for 47 months. Came to us, he had paid just under $38,000 in payments over 47 months. He wanted to refinance because the rates went down. My grandpa said you should do this, my banker said to do this, but he always he retired. Now it's time to refi, and you guys will do it for me. Tried to talk him out of it, I couldn't. He paid his 48th payment, so he had just punched over $38,000 in payments. Do you know how much his balance had gone down by on the $120,000 loan with 38,000 payments? It went down by $6,000.
Yeah.
$6,100. So then he refinanced it because that's what you're supposed to do, and I couldn't convince him otherwise. But what does he do with the cost for his refi? Where do they usually go? On top of the new loan, right? So you put the cost on top of the new loan, it brought it within $102 of the original $120,000 balance. He basically reset himself, was happy as hell about it, and went back in that paying interest-only period again. If he kept doing that every 4 to 5 years for 20 years, he'll have paid $180,000 on that house and never affected the balance. That's why pay extra on your mortgage or refinance and get that lower interest rate has become such a big deal. That's how when people measure a transaction, they measure it by the interest rate in most cases and shop around for that interest rate because they've convinced them that that's the most important thing. It's not about the rate. It doesn't even matter what the rate is. It shouldn't matter at all. When you're shopping an interest rate, you shouldn't shop that. You shop the deal that you're getting and whether or not you can put the deal together and get it closed. Because the interest rate's taking care of itself. Inflation erodes it anyway. So what we're talking about here, and I want you guys to have that as a baseline to understand, when you're investing in real estate, you want to look at the longest term leverage you can get, and when you refinance, you want to do it to pull cash back out and reinvest it, never for the rate. If you get caught up in the rate thing, you'll get caught up in that same thought process that I just took you through that forces you to pay interest all the time and never get ahead.
And guys, coming from a loan officer, this is bananas. Because it would be self-serving for him to tell you to refinance every 4 years. Because they do more loans all the time.
During the refi
right?
boom, we get more calls than ever, and we turn away more business than ever because we spend, and it's the hardest work we ever do is convince people not to refinance. And we're actually turning away business. I spend enormous amounts of money to convince people not to do business with me. And to convince them not to do business with the banking industry at all because they're going to take advantage of you. But that's how we earn their trust and we never lose them as a client. Now, we lose some of them because some of those fools will still go get a refi.
Sure.
Well, if Aaron doesn't want to do it, I'll go to somebody else. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have a 7% interest rate and it comes back to the 2s, which it's not going to do that, but let's say it does, you'd be a fool not to because you can just at least put, I got 2% on my headstone. What percent of the population got that? You'd still be a small percentage. And it's a vanity move is what it is. And nobody wants to walk around with a 7% when you get a 2. It just makes sense. But when you're talking about your real estate investments, if you're not pulling cash back out, sometimes it doesn't make sense, even the 2. So let's talk about what you guys are looking at. You're looking at, say, okay, we bought all these houses, we invested in all this property, we flipped all these houses, we'll be finding something we want to keep. Now, how do we hang on to it? Well, we can do just a regular conventional loan by just doing, but there's other types of deals we've got. There's one that is starting to become more and more popular. I think it's the one we're going to talk about here, is to be able to do one loan that covers multiple different properties. So let's say it's 5 properties. What's our average price point here in Arizona?
450.
450.
Yeah.
And what's our max LTV, Sandra? Max loan to value on those blanket deals. So 75%. 75% loan to value. So with your guys' ability to ferret out transactions, is it possible to find houses that you can acquire for less than 75% of the actual value of that home? Pretty easy to do. So it's not like you're going to be putting a ton of capital into it, right? So you've got that property you'll be able to acquire. And if we can do loans on, let's say 5 of them. So let's map that out. What's 400 and you said 450?
Yep.
Let me get my
So
calculator.
that's 900, 1.8, that's
I'm getting a calculator out. Well, who's got one?
2.25.
2.25 million. Okay. That's the total value.
Uh-huh. This is 5 properties?
Yep. And so that means we could do a loan of
And our
one.
average that we get it at, Berg? If
About 65%, probably.
65% is what we lock it up at?
Yeah.
65%? All right.
Okay. So 75%, the max loan that you can get on.
Repairs, though, to get up.
What's that?
Needs repairs.
Repairs.
Yeah.
Get up to value. So 65%, you probably need what
usually-
percentage? Maybe 10%? 40, 50 grand?
Yeah.
Okay. Say $45,000 per.
For repairs. Repairs, and that is 40 to 50, okay?
So then if the total value of this is 2.25 million and we're at 75%, we can do a single loan of $1,687,500.
What is it?
$1,687,500
Okay,
is the loan size.
okay.
And what would be,
What if we just, I get this, but what if we just want to cherry pick one deal, right? We just want to buy one property.
just buy one property?
We want to buy one
Let's
property,
start
but
that down here at
collectively
450.
as a company.
Okay, start
Right?
that here at 450.
Yeah, okay, so.
450,
It's
we
worth
go-
450, we locked it up, Ryan, at how much?
310.
310, we get it for 310.
Okay.
How much work does it need, Ryan?
We'll say 50.
50K of work, 50K rehab. How much cash do we need to pull together to cover rehab, and to be able to, we're going to purchase this cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do we get for hard money? 90%?
90%, like 12 or 14%.
Right, 90%. So 90% of 310 is how much? Two.
Well, you want to do? Will they be 90% of acquisition and rehab?
279. Would they do and rehab or no? Right now.
You could, but you'd pay points, and like the more you ask for them, the more they want.
But would they do 90% of the whole deal?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It'd be
Let's
worth
say they would.
investigating. Sandra, do we have a source that can do 90%?
Okay, so 90% of 360 is how much?
90% acquisition or rehab. Do we have that?
324.
324. So we get a hard money for 324 at 12%. So then we have to come in with what's the difference? 36,000. So we have to we'll pull 36,000, and
Okay.
then we close this. Now we have this, and now it's rehab. Now what happens, Aaron?
Now it's rehab, and it's valued at 450 with that rehab.
Right.
So at 450,000, we can do a long-term 30-year fixed at 75%. Correct of that. So that would put you at 337,000.
$337,000 loan.
337,500. Sorry.
We're into it for 324. No, we're into it for 360.
Yep. Into it for
Okay,
360.
so.
Plus
that
your
is
hard
the
money expenses.
So we truly have what 22.5 left in it.
Let's
Okay.
call it 20. Call it 27 because you can have
Let's call it
loan
30.
costs. Yeah.
Let's call it 30. So we need 30,000 to buy a deal.
$30,000 to get a deal settled in.
Well,
own it
really,
for 30
we
years.
need the 36 to get it, right? And then we'll get 6 back, and we'll keep 30 in. Does that make sense, guys?
I mean, it's always made sense.
And how many people were talking in this?
I mean, I can do it right now.
4? Let's just say 4. Okay. So everybody comes in with $9,000 and they all get back, say $1,500 a pop when it's all said and done,
Right.
or just leave it into the middle, into the LLC that gets rolled into the next
The
transaction.
question I have is, you take everybody, are you guys grabbing the credit score, the income statement, the job history, all of that? What is required, and what kind of loan is this? Can we give her that box?
All right,
Box time.
the box. We can do what's called a DSCR loan. The only documentation we need is credit scores, assets, and the LLC docs.
Assets for
The
us
acquisition.
collectively, as a company, as an LLC, as individuals?
Just as either one. We're looking for reserves is all, because this would be a refinance. So
Right.
you're not bringing any more money into the transaction itself.
But are you
They
pulling
just want to see
reserves from
reserves.
us as individuals? Are
They'll-
we
they'll
sending
do
you our
either.
savings and our investment accounts and all that?
They'll do either.
Wherever the
Okay.
money's at.
Yeah.
It depends on where the money is. So you guys if you have collective capital sitting in an LLC account, we'll use that.
Right.
If you got 4 members, then they all have, say, each separate accounts of 30,000, 30,000, 30,000, we'll pull the members' accounts.
Okay.
But if you want to put it in the middle, then we do it that way. It'd make more sense to have an LLC with an LLC account and just keep it separate. Build the wall and keep it there.
How much history do you need in that LLC? No history.
You can set it up as you're buying.
Set it up as you buy, put it in there, have reserves in there, and that's what they're looking at.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you give Jeremy the box?
I've had a few buyers over the years do this loan prior to the rehab. How is that possible?
Do which the
The
DSCR loan? prior to the
DSCR
rehab?
loan.
We're doing it based upon the property as it sits. I'll always say if you could do it with the rehab, you get the best bang for your buck. The other thing is we'll get the appraiser out there the day after the rehab is 100% complete. They spit shine the house, they mowed the lawn, it's ready for the cover of the magazine. Then we send them in, so we get the best possible appraisal you can get.
So why are they doing it prior to the rehab?
When it's in rough shape.
A lot of times because their money situation is lacking. You know, there's a lot of people that jump the gun because they want to get their money and get moving. They don't have the patience to let their money sit and do the next thing. It's truly a patience issue or a lack of capital.
I mean, ideally, if we do this, we're not gonna look at something that needs 50K in rehab.
No.
10 to 15 tops.
And plus, you guys probably have the people to do the rehabs to get it done for a hell of a lot better, a hell of a lot cheaper, instead of having somebody calling out of the offline to find out who's the best for Angie on Angie's list.
Yeah,
And those margins are much lower.
right. So what kind of credit do you need for this?
What's the minimum credit score? 660.
660.
But that affects your interest rate. So 780, you get your best credit, your best interest rates. But what do we care about the interest rate, right? Nobody gives a shit. Just get the deal.
830, bro.
And the other thing is,
Is that
you
your
can.
credit score? 830?
So
My man.
with these, Sandra, are these the ones? This particular loan file. This is the one where we're going to look at the single credit score, the one who is the bulk owner in the LLC.
Yeah, so you'd want to set the LLC up with one person owning marginally more, because then you only have to.
Can we get that?
person.
Can you say that again, please?
I can repeat
is
that.
going
I can
out
repeat
to-
that for
yeah.
you. I can repeat that for you.
ahead.
So ultimately, when you're setting up your LLC, it's worthwhile for you guys to actually show your credit scores and show who's got the best credit score. And if we have some that maybe they have the 660, 670, 680s, but one with the King Dingling with 8 whatever over here, he gets,
That was his college nickname.
yeah, exactly. With the hybrid shoes, with one.
I don't know what they are now.
One more percentage, they're actually Reeboks.
They can't pump up.
They got the pump.
T-move, bro. T-move.
Nights.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Dude, I haven't heard that. Holy crap, the BKs, jeez.
Yeah, they're great.
So now you got me thinking back on some of the other stuff I had. But you
Focus.
give them 1% more, then that would be the one that we focus the credit score review on.
Okay. And then you just put money into the account. We cherry pick a deal here. We get now, are you doing a rate and term refi on these?
Yes, if there's a hard money loan, it's a rate and term.
Rate and term, perfect. Is that better? Is that easier? Right.
Better
They're all the
options,
same amount of
better
work.
rates.
Right.
Same amount of work. Just it's a different rate structure is the only difference.
So then you set it up in the LLC, you put money into the LLC, you find a property that doesn't need a tremendous amount. We're not a cash flow market, we're more of an appreciation market, but we still want to be able to buy in really good school districts so that the tenants stay a long time, so that you don't have a break in the $1,800 or $2,000 a month payments,
100%.
which really affects, the longer you can have a tenant in there, the better, right? You have
Definitely.
less turnover cost, you have less vacancy cost, and, from a property management standpoint, it goes a lot easier.
Yep, and then once we get this into the system, it just keeps repeating itself, keep growing it. And I say just keep the capital flowing into the, instead of paying back, keep it flowing into the LLC account, keep building it up, and prep it up for the next deal.
And so without appreciation, with just the increase in the rent at 3% and the pay down of the loan, you're already at 20% return on the money invested.
100 yeah,
So you get
and,
a 20%.
and that's not even, we're not even getting into the taxes yet.
What, there's
the dep-
taxes?
The depreciation on the taxes, right? And we also, I just got done, I'm gonna bring him in here. At some point, when I bring him in here, I'll bring the, our connection I have who's local that does the cost segregation, and we'll really drill down what you can
Well, it's
do a
essentially
quick depreciation.
3.63 a year that you can write off if you don't do advanced depreciation. If you do advanced depreciation, then you're kind of stuck with it. So I don't really like that strategy, but you can write off 3.63% of the value each year.
Yeah.
Right, because it's
approximately.
over 27 and a half years. So if you just do the math, right?
Plus
Right.
you get to write off the
And you get
interest.
to write off the interest.
Write off the
I mean,
interest
can
that
you
the
write
tenant's
off
paying
all
for
the
you.
interest on an investor loan from your income?
You'll run it through your 1120.
It doesn't have to be a primary residence?
Nope. Have to run through your 1120S.
What are we talking about here, guys?
Sounds good. I don't know what any of that means. I don't know.
1120S is just the tax forms for an LLC.
Cool.
So I mean, just everything sex here, and sex here, and sex, the more you dig into it.
I feel dumb for not already knowing this, honestly.
Well, here's the one thing you don't need to know is a damn thing that we just talked about. This was just a 30,000-foot flyover. Is when you find a deal, you call us, and what we do is you talk you through the step, and we only get you to one step, and then you prove to us you did that step, then we'll take you to the next one, and the next one until it becomes habitual. The thing that a lot of people like to do is take notes. I heard Aaron say this. Well, your note taking and what comes out of my mouth sometimes is not exactly the same. And they go off and they run off to a deal, they get it done, they come back to me, okay, I'm ready to refi, and I look at this and you just screwed all this up. He's like, no, I didn't. I went off of my notes. I said, well, what about my email? Well, I didn't read the email. My email had all the steps. And the first step is you don't do a damn thing until you call me. That's the number one step. It's in big, bold letters. Call Aaron first before you do anything, and I will walk you through it. And if I can't walk you through it, you've got Ellen, you've got Sandra to walk you through it.
Right.
You guys are not by yourself in this. We didn't just give you information to go do stuff and then come back and say, okay, give me money. No, we are going to walk you through it step by step because I need this to be successful. I need you to be successful, and I need it to be 12, 15, 20 deals deep. And I need you to take it out to the world and already know it so well that the next guy can do it just right behind you. And we keep building and building and building.
So if we have an ARV of 450, if we have an ARV of 450, what do we ultimately need to buy it at for this to make sense?
It needs to end up at 75%. So you work
Yeah.
backwards.
With the repairs.
It just depends on how much, if you want to get all your money back out.
And also, you want to weigh, and it's weighing the deal. You might just have this house may be just the ultimate one to get your hands on because you know what the future would be with that one because of what it is. You may be in a position where hey, you might have to leave 10% in the deal, but because of what it is, it's worth hanging on to.
So it's, yeah. Okay. Yeah, right.
I think the toughest part, Ryan, is like Laredo, right?
Yeah.
That would have been a great one to hold for long term. Right next to Intel, beautiful neighborhood, ready to go. We got it at a smoking deal. But we're like, hey, we can make 60K on this.
We made more than
Right. What do we make on it?
well, overall.
70s, I think.
70,000, right? As a, you're like, oh, that's good cash. That's going. That's hitting our goals for the company. If instead you take that off, you kind of put it to the side and go, okay, we're just going to hold this forever. The amount we would make over time is massive.
With that one specifically.
Right. Deals like that, deals that are in really good school districts, real desirable areas where there's not a lot of rentals.
That was a 50K.
Yeah. Gilbert one. I mean, these ones that we run across that are in really good areas.
What would you say? Probably 1 out of every 20 has some monster upside if you hang on to it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty reactive.
One in,
Yeah.
Okay.
1 in 20, 1 in 25, something like that.
And how many deals do you guys go through?
Over 100.
Over 100? So at least you can expect 5 to 7 a year that you're going to.
Yeah.
Okay. And it might compound faster as you're seeing this. It changes your vision, change what you're looking at. You see things differently when you're looking through a different lens. And it may be your deals may expand.
Well, and let alone going into, if you go into other markets, find other deals where it's more, the price points are, lower, but there's still some good growth. I mean, you see explosive stuff going on in North Carolina, in Ohio, in all sorts of other places where, a lot of industries are coming in, a lot of different, the economies are really getting boosted, and so there's some potential there as well.
You guys have contacts in those states?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have contacts too in all those states. I do business in 30
Do you
states.
have people doing this? Do you have companies like us doing this?
Yes, we do have some that are doing this. They're not doing it at the level that you guys are proposing to want to do it.
Right.
But yeah, there's people that are doing. They'll call us for a one-off here and there. So we're already doing these things.
Do you think that timing the market is important?
I don't know that it's possible. So I have a theory behind timing the market.
We both have friends. We all have friends that made an absolute
Well, there's
fortune,
people that
like
hooked us.
life-changing legacy fortune in 2010 through 13.
Because they were there when the market did that.
Right.
So timing the market is, I look at it as trying to be a star football player sitting on the bench, conserving your energy, just to jump on the field for the highlight reel. But the people who will be on the highlight reel are the ones whose asses are already on the field. So what I explain to everybody is to time the market, you already have to be in the field doing it. You have to be playing the game. You guys are already playing the game, so just keep playing the game. And one of these days, you'll look back over your shoulder like, holy crap, we timed the market.
Yeah.
You timed the market because you were there doing it in the market.
Yeah.
So yes, it will come. We'll have that opportunity. It's going to come. I don't know how. I don't know where it's going to hit from, but it will happen again. And you guys are already positioned to because you're already building the systems into place to make sure it happens. And you're building the partnerships to make sure it happens.
Any questions?
Is there any timeline restrictions? Like, let's say we buy a house, rehab it in 3 weeks. Do we have to own it for a certain amount of time? Or
Nope.
No seasoning.
No seasoning. That's where it comes into talk to us to set it up right. Because sometimes if you do it incorrectly, your money's going to have to sit for 6 months to a year. But if you do it the way we help guide you through it, we can pull it right out immediately because we we go according to what the guidelines are and your structure to ensure that's possible. Now, can they change the rules on us? They have. They've done that before. They've done it. Sometimes I had midstream things happen, but then we take heavy evasive maneuvers and readjust it and get you somewhere we can get it done. That's been very rare. We've had where we just have to sit on our hands. Yes, Ed?
Most things mean is you've got to have the hard money loan. It can't be cash, otherwise they're at least 90 days.
90 to 120 days on the cash thing.
So it's actually better to get a hard money loan. Interesting.
Now,
Why?
if-
They like rate and term refinance is better than they do cash outs.
Wow.
Why, I don't know. I mean,
because somebody,
give her the mic?
and
it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would believe
Just keep
because
the mic, will you?
I believe the reason they like the rate and term refinancing somebody else versus getting you cash on something that's free and clear, because somebody else has already taken the risk.
Got
And
it.
if for some reason it doesn't work out, they can leave it on that guy. But somebody is already willing to take that step. Everybody's willing to follow somebody who steps in first. It's harder to be the first person through the door in many situations, not knowing what's on the other side.
Cool.